This week, I wanted to cover business transformation and specifically how the 95 method that I put together uh, has basically 5 steps in business transformation. So there's the executive education program, which is really a good precursor to business transformation because it gets the executives' brains wrapped around a way to improve the system that they work in so that they can become effective. And so the 95 method business transformation steps are basically 5 things. We'll just take a look at this list. The first step is evaluation. The second step is study the organization. The third is build a prototype. And then the fourth is implementation. And the fifth is monitoring performance. So let's just start with the first one on this list, which is evaluation. And basically, the evaluation is typically start with a 30-minute phone call. Sometimes it lasts much longer than that, where we set up a second call. But the evaluation process is I'm going to give an organization that's interested in doing a business transformation a series of activities to do. And what it does is it gives both the prospective organization and myself a chance to evaluate whether this system is right for them. And there's a whole series of things that, you know, whether I'm weeded out or I weed them out as, an organization that's right for the 95 method business transformation. And so, in essence, you're going to have an opportunity to look at your organization. And then as I said, I'll give you some things to do after the initial phone call. And sometimes people don't get back, but for the most part, there are people in the organization that are at such a level that they're pretty good about doing the exercise and then either saying after conversation and usually 2 or 3 phone calls, this isn't right for me, or it is right for our organization, at least initially. And so, who am I talking to in this evaluation process? It's ranged. For the most part, in large organizations, there's someone that's in charge of business transformation, and that might actually be the title. Might be a director or vice president. There occasionally are project managers that get involved in this. In a smaller organization, it's typically the owner or maybe one of there might be 2, 3, 4 executives. And when I say smaller, I'm talking typically about 150 plus employee organization. And then during the course of that, it gives myself and the representative an opportunity to understand what the opportunity is for the organization. It's on a very small scale. It's going to just say, okay, this makes a lot of sense to me. I've listened to your podcast, or I've seen you on YouTube or whatever. And so they take a look at their organization. They say, yeah, I think we have some opportunity here. But I take things in incremental steps, which leads us to step 2. And there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. One of the things that I've been doing is leveraging the executive education program for organizations, as it has generally the same steps as the business transformation. But there are some nuances with regards to business transformation that I make, but I can usually guide people through. So there's kind of a decision point about whether the organization kind of wants to take it on their own, which is perfectly fine, or they want maybe just a little bit of help, which is a lot more common. And that can range from, get us kicked off, get us kind of going down a path And then we'll communicate. We can see whether it makes sense. I try not to do because they take up a lot of time on-site types of transformations anymore. I'll do them on occasion, but they're so involved, and there's so many companies now that are interested in business transformation that's almost better, especially at the beginning, to kind of wade your way through what's going on. Can I make it faster than that? Yes, and there's an expense associated with that too, obviously. But the second step is, you know, to study the organization as a system, and in doing so, typically we'll build a small team of people. They've ranged anywhere from 5 people to 16 people, although I think 16 is way too large. And at the beginning, a lot of organizations don't want to put that many resources into it that they can understand. Okay, we have a general idea what the opportunity is for improvement, but we want to kind of nail that down a little bit and kind of know what we're getting into. And so by studying the organization customer in, then they'll be able to have a next layer down or next level down of detail. So more detail than the initial evaluation. And so we'll listen to interactions, or have people listen to interactions between the customer and the organization. We'll collect some data, and then there's an executive education component to that if they so choose to do that at the study of the organization stage, because it's going to be important for my method, the 95 method, for executives to kind of know what's going on all throughout it, so they understand how to lead it. And this evaluation step, it depends on the size of the organizations. I've done it in as few as 2 weeks, but it could take 8 weeks, and that's pretty much this small team full time looking into this. Larger organizations are going to take a little bit longer, typically, to get the types of information that they need to kind of move forward. And again, we're getting more detail to what the opportunity is in the organization by doing that. Then the third step is, and the third step is building a working prototype. And that is, now that we've learned all about the organizations, let's try some things out in the organization. So there's a lot of live activity going on, and that's one of the reasons why, in the second step, I'm typically looking for people to be part of the team. There might be an executive on occasion. There is. Typically, it might be a manager, and definitely a lot of frontline people. It could be people from sales. They could be people from the contact center. It could be any of a number of customer-facing types of positions in an organization, or technicians, if you will. So while we're building this prototype, we're building it with the team. We're working through a lot of the things that do and don't work as solutions, so that we're doing on a very small scale. And I've talked about this a lot in the podcast, is, if you're going to make changes to a system, don't blow up the whole system. Make it very small, and taking the team, through it. And, at this point, when we're working through the prototype, when we think we're starting to get narrow in on a good solution, basically to implement with the rest of the organization, then you start to bring some of the ancillary areas in, like IT and training, and a number of things. But this is very much something where a lot of support areas are not involved from the beginning. So in other words, the first 2 steps, we're kind of limiting, the cost of building a different building a prototype and learning, and then we'll have something for the other people in the organization to go through when we start, or maybe as part of implementation, so they can understand what the team went through, how they came to the solutions that they have. And a lot of times, once we start to get others involved, there's questions about, well, maybe this isn't the best way. There might be some minor adjustments, but usually it's pretty well, I would say 90 to 95% of it is pretty well thought through at that point, because we've looked at the entire system and we know kind of what's going on in the system, and we have a working knowledge of the types of fundamentals that are needed in order to make the prototype work in the rest of the organization. So that's really, implementation. Now we're talking about project managers coming in and helping to get involved with bringing people in. If we had maybe started with 7 people, now we start to, let's just take a contact center, start to now get the rest of the teams of people in the contact center working in the new way. And so they're kind of going through and getting acclimated to a different way of doing the work that they currently have. And then the 5th step is then you're monitoring performance. Now, built correctly, the front line really is, can identify changes in the customer interactions. So as we're studying the organization, we're looking at the interactions between the customer and the organization. And then once we built into the system a way of monitoring so that executives don't have to wait for a report, the frontline folks are aware enough and have built into the system enough that when a change comes that's significant, they know the impact of it and how important it is, to get others involved and saying, boy, we've got a real shift here in customer behavior, the way that they're buying our products and services, whatever it might be. So those are the 5 steps. I wanted to get this out there. I'll probably put this on my website and also on the training prep platform, so people will have access to this video from there. But that's what I wanted to cover. There's obviously a lot more to each of the steps, but I wanted to give a high-level overview of what the business transformation looks like for the 95 method. That's what I wanted to cover, and remember, there is always a better way.